The ServiceNow Platform UI is a web-based interface which serves as the primary tool for accessing the Now platform. This video covers Lesson 3 in our ServiceNow Fundamentals learning path entitled ServiceNow User Interface Overview. We'll cover the layout of the screen and screen elements, and then we'll take a look at some of the most commonly available tools provided by the UI, including the user menu, global search, connect chat, contextual help, system settings, the application navigator, favorites, and history. We'll start with a quick review of my notes that you can use as you prepare for the certification exam. But stick with us to the end, where we'll jump into our actual ServiceNow instances and test out all of the user interface elements we review in this video as we continue on our journey to ServiceNow certification. Hello, it's Jeff Teese here from ServiceNowSimple.com, where we help you understand the ins and outs of ServiceNow, and we keep it simple all the way. We're glad you're here, and we hope you find value in this video. Before we jump into the content, we'll let you know that you can find links to any of the resources we mention in this video in the description box below. We'd also love for you to join the channel so that you can get notifications as new videos are added. Just hit that subscribe button. And with that, let's jump in to a working session and demonstration of the ServiceNow Platform User Interface. They divided this lesson into two primary topics. The first being an overview of the main screen elements of the ServiceNow User Interface, and the second being a bit of a deeper dive into what they call the Application Navigator, which will be your primary navigation tool as you work your way through ServiceNow. Let's take a look at some of the concepts I think we'll need to remember in preparing for the certification exam. Normally, I would not spend any time remembering what different parts of the screen are called, but because the certification examination is a multiple choice type question, I think it's important for us to know these terms, because it's likely in the manner of the question being asked, we'll need to know what these different labels of the sections of the screen are. So that's why I'm pulling these out. The main screen elements, the lesson taught us that there are three primary elements that make up the ServiceNow Platform User Interface. First, the banner frame. Banner frame runs across the top of the user interface. It's got a lot of different sections and tools in it, and we'll cover each of those in the upcoming slides, and then we'll go through a demonstration of all of this. To the left is your primary navigation element, and that is called the Application Navigator in ServiceNow. And then the remainder of the screen, what you'd normally think of as your workspace, they call their content frame. So three main screen elements: banner frame across the top, Application Navigator on the left-hand sidebar, content frame, the remainder of the screen. Now let's take a look at the banner frame in a little more detail and talk about the tools that are existent there. First, the logo far left can be customized, of course. Not much to talk about with the logo. Click on the logo to return to the home page from wherever you are in the application. Very common sort of UI design. A bit further over to the right, you will see what they call the user menu. You can drop that down and get to various user-related tools or tools that impact the current user that's logged into the system. We'll talk about those. The next three icons, they group and they call them tools. So there's the search tool, there's the connect chat tool, and there's the help tool that make up what they refer to as the tools section of the banner frame. And then finally, the gear at the end is entitled System Settings. We'll talk about each of those and what they do next. Okay, we're not going to spend a lot of time on the logo. As I mentioned, logo, just click it and get to the home page. The next section of the banner frame is called the user menu, and you'll see that when you click that and drop that down, you're going to have four menu options. Profile is the area where you can go to set any of your profile attributes. So if you need to make a name change to phone, title, email, date, format, and time zone. Those are the settings that you can get to from within the profile menu item. Impersonate user. This is a nice little tool. It's kind of a help or assistance tool that allows you to view the instance of ServiceNow as though you were someone else. This is not available to everyone. It's only available to people that have the admin role or the impersonator role. But the idea here is if a user calls and says they're having trouble finding a certain link on their screen, or maybe they don't see the tasks that they think they should see, it would allow a support person to actually sort of log into the system as that individual, and they will then see the application just as that person does. So they're not actually sharing the screen. They're not actually taking over screen control or sharing the person's screen, but you'll log into the system and you will then be impersonating that user. You would have their privileges, any tasks or assignments that were associated with that user would show up. So you would be viewing the screen just as though you were them. It allows you to then walk through with them, see what they're seeing, and either help explain what's happening or give you an idea where to dig deeper into what might be occurring. Elevate roles. This is only available to the system admin, and it's a safety mechanism for high impact actions. So as the administrator, you can do pretty much anything, everything, but there may be certain actions that you just want to put a lock on, even for yourself, so that you don't accidentally make a high impact mistake. So you can do that, which would then force you to jump through the hoop of going and elevating your role to make sure that you're thinking twice about any high impact action that you may take. And then finally, log out of the ServiceNow instance via the logout menu item. Let's look at the tools next. Tools, there are 3 of them. They are the global search tool, which allows you to search the entire instance of the ServiceNow for records that match whatever keywords you want to enter into the search tool. That's a handy tool there, global search. Connect chat. ServiceNow has implemented a chat right within the application. So if you need to get in contact, ask a question to some other user of the instance, you can do that directly from within ServiceNow without having to jump out to some other chat application and get in touch with someone. And then finally, help. This will, depending upon where you're at in the application, it will display contextual help that's available for whatever context you're in. You can also, from the help menu, you can get access to the user guide, and you have the ability to search the documentation. That's the tools. All right, the third and final section of the banner frame is the system settings icon, and that's the gear at the far right. This allows you to go in and customize this your user interface as you wish. So there are no changes you can make here that would impact anyone else. It's just the ability to set certain characteristics of the UI to your preference. They divide those into sections. There's general settings, theme settings for the way it looks, accessibility settings, list settings for how lists appear, form settings, notification settings, and then developer settings. And we will go through each of those to talk a little bit about what you can do from within each of those different system settings areas. So let's do that now. General settings. You can go into System Settings, General Settings tab, and you can do all sorts of general configuration type things. They have the ability to compact the user interface. It sort of shrinks some of the tools down so that things look a little more compact on a smaller screen. You can enable, disable that. You can enable or disable keyboard shortcuts as you like. You can choose if you want your home link or your home page to be either the home pages within the application or to dashboards within the application. We will talk about what those are as we progress through the series of videos. You can set your date time to whether you want standard date time or you want it to display time ago or both, and then you can also set your time zone. Theme settings is the second tab in the system settings. It's really about choosing the color or the look of the UI. We'll take a look at that and I'll give you an idea why that might be helpful. Accessibility settings just allows you to set accessibility settings. Not going to spend a lot of time there. Just know that that's one of the tabs. That's one of the things you can do. And list settings. A lot of what you'll be seeing in ServiceNow will be lists of data, and you can sort of set how you want those to look. For example, you can enable and disable the wrapping of long text in certain columns. That's list settings. Form settings. Form settings. You can forms are a view of a single record. So you got lists where you're viewing multiple records, and then if you go into one of those records, you'll get a form view, what they call a form. Forms can have lots of things on them in addition to just the main content. For example, they can have related lists and things at the bottom. You can specify whether you want those just to list down as different sections, or if you want them to be displayed in a tab control. You can also specify whether you want any of those related lists on the form to load when the form loads, or after the form loads, or on demand. And that's kind of a performance thing. Sometimes you may have a form that has a related list that's long and is going to slow up the loading of your form. So you may want to say, I'll load the related lists on demand. You can make those changes there. Notification settings, set the notifications that you would like. You can either turn on or off notifications altogether, or specify which notifications you are interested in getting from the application, and then what channel you would like those notifications to use. And then finally, developer settings, targeted to developers, allows you to choose the application scope and the update set that you're using. We'll learn more about those later. And then you can choose whether you want to display the application picker and update set picker on the screen. You can disable JavaScript log viewer, and then you can enable and disable the automated test framework. So page inspector. We'll talk about those as we get later in the course into the developer content. But for now, just know that those are all available in the system settings area. Okay. This page is meant to help you, hopefully, if you'd like to do a little demonstration, and I'll go through this here in a minute. We'll actually jump into the instance, do a demonstration of this. But it might be a good quick study thing to help walk through some of it as a little bit of a practice to make sure you understand what each of those tools does. So I'm not going to cover that one here, but we'll walk through it here when we do the demonstration. The other primary section that this lesson talks about is the application navigator. We mentioned that that's your sidebar on your left. It's your main navigation element to get to everything that you want to get to in ServiceNow. Let's talk about the different sections of the navigation application navigator. At the top, there's the navigation filter. This navigation list, this list of applications and modules, can be very long. You'd be scrolling you could be scrolling to try and find what you're looking for. The filter that they give you at the top is handy. You can type in any number of characters, and as you type, it's going to filter the list of application and modules that are listed there. So for example, if you needed to find something related to the CMDB, a tool related to the CMDB, you could type CMDB, and it's going to only show any applications or modules that include CMDB in their name. So that's a handy way to sort of filter out the long list of applications and modules. Okay, beneath that there are 3 tabs which further sort of filter the applications and modules in the application navigator. The first is the All Applications tab. Click it, you're going to see all applications. The second is your favorites. As you're working through ServiceNow, you're going to find probably that you find yourself often going to the same applications or modules. You could mark those as favorites, in which case you can come hit your favorites tab in the application navigator, and that smaller list of your favorites will be listed there. You can also add as favorites individual records. So you may have a trouble ticket you're working on. You could add that as a favorite. You could then very quickly come to your favorites, get right back to that individual trouble ticket. And then the third tab is your history. As you're working through the application, ServiceNow is keeping track of what you're doing, the pages or the modules and the applications you're visiting. It will keep track of, by default, the last 30 items you visited. So if you're looking at something and then you come back in the afternoon, you want to get back to it, you could go to your history tab and you could find it that way fairly quickly. Real quickly on the All Applications tab here, let's talk about what's actually in the Application Navigator first. So these things that we're seeing in the Application Navigator primarily are applications and modules. So the way this works, applications are the top level of this Navigator hierarchy. So you're going to have a list of applications, and then within each application you can have one or many modules for specific functions within that application. You can also have what's called a separator. A separator really is just an expand collapsed grouping mechanism that you can use for modules. So if your application has a whole lot of modules, you may want to group them sort of functionally. You could create separators that would then allow you to expand and collapse the Navigator based upon the modules that are beneath that. So you're going to see it's kind of appear like a tree with some indentation and hierarchy, but it's only one level. So you can only create one level of separator. You can't have a separator beneath a separator and build an extensive tree, but you can group things using the separator. But it's really all about clicking on either application links or module links to get to the content that you're looking for to get your work done. Okay, so that is it for the Application Navigator. And then final slide here. We'll go through this, but again, a demonstration of all the things that you can do within the Application Navigator, and we'll go through this as we move into our demonstration. That's it for this lesson, Lesson 3, ServiceNow Platform User Interface. So a lot of concepts. Unfortunately, because of the nature of the exam, it's not a simulation or anything like that. It's going to be multiple choice type questions. So I think it's going to be important that we learn those individual terms and that they use to represent the different parts of the screen. But with that, let's now jump into our personal developer instance, and we'll go through those couple of demonstrations, and we'll kind of click on and highlight and test out everything we've learned from Lesson 3. Okay, here we are in our personal developer instance of ServiceNow. Hopefully you followed in the previous video where we talked about how to request and set one of these up. If you haven't, go rewatch that video. To get into your personal developer instance, all you need to do is go back to the developer portal from the ServiceNow homepage and go ahead and log in to the developer portal. And that's going to bring you to a page where they will have a button that says Start Building. Simply click on that. That will open up a new tab with your personal developer instance. So here we are. Let's start by taking a look at those three main elements of the user interface. The Application Navigator was the thing on the left, right? Sidebar on the left. This is your primary navigation tool to get in and out of the applications and modules that you'll be using in ServiceNow. The banner frame is across the top here. It starts with the logo on the left, has the user menu here, has the three tools we discussed here, and then has the system settings gear here. And then the content frame is everything else. So where all of the content of the applications and modules that you're working in will display. All right, let's go ahead and check out the user menu. So if we drop down the user menu, you're going to see there's the four options that we discussed. Profile allows you to go in and make changes to anything related to your profile. We talked about each of those fields. Simply make your change, click the update button, and your changes will be saved. Let's check out Impersonate User. So this is the one where it will allow you to access the application as though you are someone else. So you can see it the way they see it. Only admins and impersonators have this, but let's go, for example, here. I've got a couple recent searches, so it keeps track of who you searched to impersonate prior. So you would just come in and I'll just redo Joe employee, type in the employee, begin typing the employee name. It's going to find that person for you, and then select that, and you can see now in my user menu here, I am Joe employee. So I'm now seeing the application exactly the way Joe employee would see the application. It allows me to walk with Joe through whatever trouble he may be having so that I can get a realistic view of what he's seeing. To end impersonation, simply click on the user menu again and end impersonation. Okay, real quickly, elevate roles. We talked about that's a lock that admins can use. Only admins have this to lock out high impact functions that they want to include an additional hoop or hurdle that they have to take just as a safety mechanism. And then nothing really to show you there. It just shows you the elevate roles that you've set, and you just have to click one and then you can go about your business. And then finally, if you want to log out of the instance, you'll click log out. Okay. Next is the help tool. Let's check the help tool. So we got the three tools here: the search tool, the connect chat, and the help tool. Help is going to pop up on the right sidebar any contextual help that exists given your current context or location within the application. Naturally, here we're sitting on a home page. There's no contextual help for the home page, so it tells us there are none. You can add help articles if you have the right permissions. You can also click here and get to the user guide and search the documentation. So that's sort of a demonstration of how help works. If you ever want to collapse a sidebar, there's a little button here that you can use to close the sidebar. Okay, let's take a look at the Connect Chat. Again, this is the internal chat tool that ServiceNow provides to allow you to chat real time with any other users of the instance. To do that, you would just, if you had previous chats here, you'd see the history of those, and you could go through and you could take a look at what your chat entailed. To start a new chat, simply click the plus button, tell it which user you're interested in chatting with. Again, Joe employee, and now I can type my message and chat with Joe employee from right here within the application. That is the chat tool. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. And the final tool here is the search tool. This is the global search, which is going to search the entire instance for any records that match any of the keywords that you enter here. So I was working with someone that had an email problem. Let's take a look at how search results look. Does the search, shows you the progress. If it's taking a while, you'll be able to see that. But I can see here that I have 571 results that mention email in the record. It categorizes the search results by the type of record that it found. So I can see here there are 12 task type records that mention email. There are 11 of them are incidents, and one of them is a problem ticket. But so you can see the categories to help you further get organized and find where to go to find the thing you're looking for. And then it lists those results, and it lists the snippet that it found containing your keyword. You could then, so for example, we can see this is a incident that someone's unable to connect to the email. It shows you some information here to describe that incident. You could then click on that, and it will take you directly to that incident. So that is the way search looks. Let's go ahead and let's go back to our home page to get rid of our search. And now let's try the system settings. So that's the last icon here. And we will click that and we'll walk through each of those sections that we talked about. Again, the PowerPoint has each of these listed for study purposes. I wouldn't normally want to memorize these things, but there may be a question. Where do you go to change the date time for your user interface? You would need to say, well, you go to the system settings, and they may even say which tab is it on. General, I hope not, but it's possible. So here are those tools that I mentioned. Let's see here, pretty self-explanatory. Theme allows you to change the colors, and I wanted to mention that this seems trivial, but it's actually kind of nice. You may be working in a situation where you have a development instance, a test instance, and a production instance. What this allows you to do is you can come to your developer instance, open it up, come in here to your system settings and your theme, and maybe make it green color. And you could go to your production instance and say, okay, I'm going to make the theme for my production instance red to remind me to be careful. This is not development. So there are times you may actually have multiple instances up on your computer, and it's kind of nice to be able to say, okay, the red one I need to be careful with, that's production. The green one, I'm a little less worried. So that's a good use of themes. Accessibility options here. We talked about each of these was listed in the PowerPoint. The lists, the things you can do with the forms, lots of notification type settings you can make here. And then finally, developer tools settings that allow you to specify how you want sort of development type tools to display. Again, everything in this system settings area is custom to you. So you're not changing anything globally. No one else is going to see any difference in what they're doing when you come in and you customize your own UI using the system settings. Okay, I think that gets us through most of the main elements, and now we're going to dive a little deeper into the application navigator. So let's start by locating the three tabs that we talked about. First tab right here being all applications. That's the default where it opens. The star is your favorites. So I haven't added any favorites other than my home, so that's there. And then the third tab is your history. So I've been in and out of this instance a bit, working on some demonstration type things, so we can see here the list of the applications and modules and screens and reports that I have accessed, up to 30, the last 30. You can customize that, but that's default, which would allow me quick access to go back to something I was working on recently. Okay, let's test out the filter here. Here's the navigation filter at the top. So I'm going to go back to all applications, and let's say we want to deal with incidents. I can type in incident, and you can see now this is a much smaller list. The only things that are included in the application navigator are applications and modules that include the word incident. So that's the way that filter works. That's a very handy tool. If I clear that, I will show you kind of the extent of applications that exist here. So you could see this would be a very, very long list of applications and modules to scroll through if they didn't help us out with that filter navigator or navigation filter. So that is nice. Let's talk about the things. We talked about the actual items in here. Applications are the top level. So you can see here self-service is an application that has many modules. You can see a bit of an indentation there. Many modules within it. We then have the adoption services application with a single module in it. Then we have benchmark. Here's an example of a separator. So benchmark has a dashboard module, and then it's got a separator combining in an administrative type category, setup and category. So you can expand and collapse each individual separator as you like by clicking on the expand collapse icon. You can also expand and collapse the entirety of the application navigator by coming to your all applications tab and double clicking it. So you can see now I've got just a straight up list of all the top level applications. I can double click that and expand everything. So now I've got all applications. It expands to all their modules. All of the separators are expanded to include all of their modules. Okay. Let's see here. Let's take a look at how this actually works within the main workspace here, the content frame. So I'll go back to incident, and I'm going to go down to the incident application, and you can see there are different kinds of modules here that allow me to see different levels of instance. I can create a new one. I can see only those that are assigned to me. I can find only those that are open. I'm going to just click the all module here under incidents. So here you can see I can see all of the incidents in my workspace here, my content frame that that exist in this demonstration database that I'm looking at here. So incidents. Okay, let's talk about favorites. This is our favorites tab. You can see I only have the home here, but if I want to add an application or a module as a favorite, I can do that. So for example, let's go back to all applications here, and let's go to our incidents application, and let's say I'm very often creating new incidents. What I can do is come here, click the star next to that, and now when I go to my favorites, I can see I've got the incident create new menu item there. So it's just a way to take menu items, applications, and modules from the application navigator, put them in your own special place to get your list smaller, and return to things that you use commonly. There are other ways to create favorites. This will we'll get into this in the next couple of lessons, but just as a sneak peek here, for example, I may have a specific incident that I want to make a favorite. So here I'm looking at all of the incidents, and this one here, 9003, I'm particularly interested in for some period of time. I can simply drag that, I can drag that and drop it onto my favorites tab, and you can see now I have a favorite created specifically to that incident. In which case, when I click on it, it's going to open the form for that specific incident. So there it is. So you can add incidents, you can add specific records to the favorites, you can add lists of records to the favorites, you can add filtered lists of records to the favorites, you can add applications and modules to the favorites. So we'll get into a lot of all that as we continue through in more detail. All right, access the favorite tabs, we did that. Oh, another thing to note, now if I were to go and impersonate a user, let's go look at Joe Employee again. You'll see the difference here. Now, if I go to my favorites, you're going to see I'm Joe Employee now. So my favorites aren't here because I'm not me any longer. So that's what impersonate does. It really sets the application as though you are that person. I'll go back and in my impersonation, and then we can see my favorites reappear here. You can edit favorites, make a few changes to them. I don't think this is all that important, but at the bottom here, there's a pencil icon on the favorites tab you can use. You could then change the order of the favorites by dragging and dropping. You can also change the name of the favorite to whatever you would like, and you can change the color of the favorite. Here you can see I just made this incident yellow. And you could even give it an icon, like I want that to be a paperclip. So allows you to customize your favorites a little bit. You can use colors to categorize things, or you can use different icons to categorize things as you like. And then the final thing mentioned in this lesson, history, real quickly. I talked about it already, but as you're working, the application's keeping track of the pages, the reports, the applications, the modules that you visit. You can then come back to the history tab, and you can get back to something that you were previously working on fairly simply. Click my logo, take me back to my home page, and well, little here. Oh, I've got this open. I've got to finish my favorites editing, and then I'm back to my home page. So that's it. Demonstration of what was covered in lesson 3, ServiceNow Platform User Interface Overview. Hope that was helpful. Just get in your personal developer instance and feel free to experiment with the stuff. The more you use it, the more you remember it, I believe. The more you see it, the more it sticks in your brain, and it hopefully will help you when it comes time to take the certification exam. That's it for what's important from ServiceNow Fundamentals Lesson 3. I hope you're all comfortable now navigating about in the ServiceNow Platform User Interface. I would recommend everyone jump into their personal developer instance and play around with the UI to learn better how it behaves. In the next video, we'll be covering Lesson 4, entitled ServiceNow Branding Overview. Until then, please drop us some feedback in the comments. Let us know how we're doing. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already subscribed to the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.